Welcome to another episode of the Market Makers in Middle East and Africa podcast. I am your host Abrar Hussain. Today I speak to Binoo Joseph, Chief Digital Officer at Cenomi. Binoo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Abrar. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast.
Binoo, a very interesting career of around 20 years with various leadership positions in transformation and technology. What excited you to join Cenomi, and tell us about your story?
I think for me, I've been very kind of execution focused from day one. I started off as a engineer, started with coding and building things and so on and so forth. But I was always kind of interested in the fact that there was a challenge that was there to be solved. And then in my career, I spanned multiple countries and different cultures. So I started off like most of the people that have, started off in India, then ventured out into UK, and then I was in the US for some time. Then I was in China and the Southeast Asia for some time, where the velocity of delivery was very different. And across this, and then I moved to Middle East, to Dubai. What has actually motivated me a lot was that the speed of execution that, the amount of the ability that you have to really deliver large amount of change very fast is often overlooked. And it is something that you can achieve as well. And I learned this lesson more in the Southeast Asia, actually, the speed that you can achieve for large transformations. And I've been doing that for almost 6 years in the Middle East, and before that in Southeast Asia, is basically large companies which are sort of legacy oriented. They have got silos of information, and I do a rapid transformation in the sense that we bring them up to date and then actually take them beyond. And I've done a few in the UAE as well. And Cenomi was also a similar challenge, large entities, diversified business. But again, the same kind of challenges, and what they wanted was, again, bring them up to, the current state of affairs and in terms of tech, and actually innovate beyond. Mm-hmm. So that was the ask at that point of time. And it was an interesting thing because culturally also it was in a different country as well. So a bit of challenge on both sides. How do we do a large scale transformation program in a new culture, a new country at the same velocity? So that's the thing that drove me there. And generally for me, I like things that can be time boxed into a large, transformation, and actually have things that can be measured at the end of that, and in a measured time frame, 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, not beyond that. So deliver all that is, possible in terms of cost, revenue increases, customer satisfaction, and in terms of real data, what your statistics in terms of your NPS scores or your CX scores, and in terms of how technology can help drive a bit of revenue, right? So those kind of challenges always have excited me, and this was one of the reasons that I landed up in Cenomi as well.
Mm-hmm. Binoo, tell us a bit more about Cenomi. What is the mission and the vision of the company? What Cenomi is trying to do?
So Cenomi is a large mall operator. So it's perhaps the second or the third large mall operator in the Middle East. There are 22 malls that they run. They have other diversified interests into e-commerce, payments industry, and retail as well. And there's Cenomi Retail as well, which does a lot of retail brands like Zara, Inditex brands. Now, Cenomi is primarily into lifestyle destinations, which means that it's trying to execute a story where, like the rest of the Middle East, you're trying to bring people in to have a great time in terms of retail, in terms of the entertainment that's offered, in terms of them actually spending time and enjoying themselves with their families, and also ensuring that there's a great lifestyle promise and an experience that we can deliver out to the people across KSA and beyond. Yeah. So Cenomi is focused on that particular mission, and obviously at the same time, Cenomi wants to bring in an omnichannel kind of experience to the customers in terms of ensuring that we have a large footfall. So today, I think there is 120 to 130 million customers that are there. These 22 malls are also fairly large sized and small sized, and there are even bigger ones coming in. There are two large Cenomi malls as well that's coming in Jeddah as well as in Riyadh, which are truly massive, and then they are having the offerings are quite diverse and catering to premium as well as to all the segments as well. So the vision of the company is to kind of give that kind of experience, and like all other similar companies, the idea is to be number one over a period of time, and deliver great shareholder value while ensuring that the customer experience at always the tops, right? So.
Mm-hmm. So, it's very interesting having, operating 22 large malls and more coming. in this intersection of physical stores and digital landscape, how does Cenomi, or how you're trying to offer a very good customer experience which goes in both ways, for digital places as well, and at the same time physical stores as well, how you're leveraging technology?
See, I think there's an interesting space. I mean, if you see the Middle East, I mean, contrary to the rest of the world, and there's a lot of people who come to the malls. Yeah, there's a lot of people who come and spend. There's a large dwell time for customers within the mall. It for meetings, for spending time with family, for shopping, for movies, and so on. So the idea is obviously that while you spend time there, right? How do we actually measure it very well? That as to how we're doing, how can we actually attract you more? How can we retain? How can we make your experience better? So there is an intersection of the physical world with the digital world. So if you look at a mall, it's kind of you have its physical presence. This GLAs around 150,000, whatever the size of it. Plus you have the networking around it, right? To measure as to how much people are coming in. So simple footfall systems to vision systems to actually Wi-Fi systems that are there, which measure what's the engagement within the mall, within shops in certain cases where we have the purview, or across the mall. So the measurement and the flow of the people across these while they do purchases, while they do or they spend their experiences out there. So that's actually that data that is there in terms of events or data points that is there, that is obviously kind of used to make their experience better. It also, so you have to took it from two type of lenses as well. See, from a pure, let's say malls play, from a leasing, let's say leasing experience, right? Obviously, the focus of the company is to kind of increase leasing revenue, both GLA and non-GLA. I mean, there's excitement outside of the leasable space as well and inside as well. But then, what's the combination that is offered, right? How do we measure it correctly? Who's coming where? Where is it naturally, where people want to shop there? Can we increase, the conversion in a particular zone, which can allow you to actually charge higher rentals or get greater turnover rentals as well. So that's a design equation which obviously needs kind of data, and this data is obviously based on the amount of people that come there, the platforms that run the mall itself, the operating model of the mall. Basically, you have integrations with the tenants. How does a tenant interact with us? Measurement of the tenant in terms of what his performance is, measurement of customers as they come into it and what do they do. And again, it's kind of what services is enabled and what's the satisfaction for those services within the mall and outside, around the mall. So the culmination of all that data points, I think, is kind of used to deliver a greater experience to customers out there. And that's where I think technology plays a digital role to say that these are the 20,000 or 30,000 customers or 50,000 customers, 100,000 at a point of time that are there in the mall, and these are the micro segments. Can we target them? Can we make them more happier? And then also, can we design the mall in a way and change the mall as well? Because this is not a static, entity yet. It could keep changing in terms of the offer, what is there, in terms of what is more exciting and attractive for customers. So in order to do all that, there's telemetry in terms of digital data points that come from customers, from the tenant, from what's happening in the city, from all over the whatever is actually being happening in terms of, let's say, in terms of the events that are there, the promotions that are there, and the conversions of that. So I think you culminate and use this to actually give a reflective view of what should be done in the mall, in terms of what's the best offer for the customer, how can we increase the dwell times there, how can we design a better mall for better rentals, how can we kind of ensure that technology is giving telemetry in a real-time basis, as well as reflective stuff, so that we can always do better on the mall's offering.
Binoo, I think you touched base very well, how Cenomi is using data on the customer engagement side.
Yeah.
Do you have, some specific, cases where data is used even to evaluate real estate investment, this, whether, you should build a mall in this area, and how you use the data to rent or lease? Do you use data to kind of set the rates, and how, you can, improve operational efficiency of the mall or of the shops using technology?
I think there's multiple questions there, bro. I think so. You have to look at the fact that you do site research. I mean, not in the malls, even in the, let's say, not only in the malls. I mean, it's in the shops as well. When you set up a retail outlet, right? So based on census blocks historically, who lives there, what's the demographics, what's the catchment area. So this data is available through public sources, and some of it has to be done through via primary research as to is there a feasibility for a mall and what's the operational dynamics. Is the customers going to come? There is a tourist kind of demographic that we see here. Is it a fixed local demographic? What's the type of demographic that you have in terms of affluence and so on, right? Which allows you to design the appropriate mall. I mean, it's the same fundamentals that were there for large retail outlets. I mean, when you designed hypermarkets and so on and so forth, right? But in a different, larger scheme of things. So obviously that data is mostly primary research and kind of public data sources that allow you to kind of make a feasibility study for this. But as soon as you kind of to the second point, what is to be offered within the mall is also based on these kind of parameters, right? As to what kind of offer you should have. For instance, if you see a mall which is in a very touristy region, then the offer also is curtailed to it. I mean, it's actually dovetailing towards a more luxury offer or something that is more relevant to the audience, right? And it has to keep abreast of the trends, because who are your tourists today and who are tourists in the next month? It kind of changes. In fixed demographic environments, you have to take different considerations as to say that which catchment regions are supplying kind of are bringing in people to your mall, right? So based on that, obviously, this is not only tech, but the data is kind of sourced from different sources and allows you to design a mall, right? Now, if you flip it to let's say a mall in operational state, once you've opened the mall, you need to have a data warehouse that today we have data lake houses that actually like the one that we have on Databricks. It's kind of a data fabric that is there. So that actually allows you to centralize the entire data, both from a customer facet, but also from a tenant facet as well. Because see, there are three dimensions to data. There's obviously the employee dimension, the tenant dimension, and obviously the customer dimension. Where do you kind of aggregate this? Where do you use it to collect all your telemetry, and how do you create your correlations so that you have a good interpretation of the same, which allows you to kind of operationally, improve the mall as well, right? So that's a necessity. It's kind of not one that you should have your data sources that are tapped into both on the customer end, the tenant end, and obviously internally from the employee end as well. And then where do you do it? And how do you actually build it so that it's just not sitting there as a, you're not in dashboard paranoia, but actually you're mostly actionable data which actually can be used to do something in terms of designing the mall, future malls, because obviously you learn from the existing ones. How do you better run that? How do you get the better offer for the customer? Does he need a loyalty program? Does he need maybe offers? Do you need to cater to more family audiences in certain malls? And the other part is the monetization of the data as well, because obviously there are tenants there are activations that happen all throughout the mall. What kind of segments can be targeted? What can be actually monetized? And so on, I think. So I think data is a fundamental pillar if you look at it. And I think today there's a lot possible from that data, because today we're trying to see how we can hyper-personalize the data in a better, easy way because of the advent of AI and so on, right? Actually, if you look at many years back, you're looking at navigations and, people asking what's what. Now they're actually asking for personalized journeys, which is possible today. So I think the realm is changing fundamentally. But the fundamental is, again, to have the data in the right place, in the right format, right thing, so that's visible, right? So,
you mentioned one very interesting thing, that there are public sources of data which are available, and I have heard from a lot of other places that large coffee chains and restaurants, they have, they base their decision where to open a coffee shop based on the affluence in that area and where the footfalls are. So I think this data is quite available nowadays, right?
It is. I think most of the countries that are there across the world and here as well, they are kind of having public, government-based data collection from based on credit card data, based on the sales data. So there's a lot of data aggregation that is happening at a national level, which is also made, available to people. And there is, if you look at most of the countries, they have kind of large large government initiatives to actually collect and distribute and disseminate the data for such use, right? That is one. Then obviously there is the private entities and the others, data aggregators as much, who actually make this data available from point of sale, and research firms who make that available as well. So both are there, public sources as well as proprietary sources that provide this information. But the data is quite available now. Yeah.
Coming to AI, I think AI is changing a lot of industries or having an impact on most of the industries. How do you see AI in retail? How is Cenomi using it?
See, for us, I think it's more not about the particular companies across. I think since LLMs have come in, right, there's been a focused run on actually how to use it. How to deliver use cases on top of it. So for me, there is kind of again three quadrants that we use this, right? I mean, from a let's say from a personal level, so employees, there is tenants for us, there's customers for us. So B2B, B2C, and employees, right? If you look at these quadrants, now. AI is a set of tools, and if you put it as a tool library or a skill library, I mean, people call it different ways. I mean, there's the agentic framework, there's multiple frameworks, and still evolving actually. So initially, all the use cases were trying to summarize things, assimilate large documents, kind of say that this is what the document is, integrate into workflows, and trying to do what automation did initially. You remember, I mean, earlier we used to do a lot of these RPAs and automation stories that were there, right? So companies which have evolved workflows, I think the focus was to try to see that how does the current AI tools actually enhance this or replace a lot of these automation tools in a better way. So our focus has been to say that the approach has to be to build a set of tools which can be meshed into the business workflows. For instance, you are a person, let's say in the leasing business, for example, or in the retail store, like you said, can you merchandise better? Can you plan your inventory better? But the skills that you have to do a better merchandising operation, better, let's say, SKU planning or range planning. So all the retail processes themselves can be embedded with tools that actually either augment or completely automate that particular skill. Which means that you will have this kind of agents or assistants, whatever you want to call them, or digital workers, or you can go to any extent. But essentially, it is accelerating the performance of a business, person significantly, right? Because he has a faster access to assimilate and analyze and decide on a set of data and compare it very fast, right? So, and then the other aspect is that, I mean, that's the internal productivity, that I was talking about within the company. So in the company, there will be, I think, what people have been talking about, the enterprise AI kind of thing. And in our company as well, the focus is to ensure that we have a set of tools and skills that are available in a AI agentic framework, which can leverage different LLMs, but also are embedded within our enterprise platforms, tools for customers, for tenants, and which are delivering kind of different, use cases in a faster and automated fashion. Right?
Binoo, coming to the IoT and smart technologies, what's your view and how you're using it to improve efficiency or to drive sustainability? So just
I
share
think
that.
So I think it's a very imperative of today that we actually look on kind of ensuring that's measurability across large physical spaces, right? If you look at all types of real estate, commercial real estate, residential, or large such. Especially in the Middle East, I mean, the biggest cost is energy, right? How do you measure the energy usage within it? How do you optimize it? How do you design better, commercial buildings or residential buildings that are kind of ensuring that it's more sustainable, right? So this has become quite a significant pillar for us. I mean, earlier we didn't have this pillar many years back. Now sustainability has become important. And the primary role here is obviously telemetry and measurement. If you remember, long time, since the beginning of these large commercial enterprises, you had these BMS systems and IoT, but they were never integrated in that fashion. So now what's happened is that for us and everybody else, when you operate large physical spaces, you want the telemetry from all these kind of events and observations that is happening. Not only to save energy or to make it sustainable, but also to ensure that you have greater degree of efficiency, right? Which again goes back into your sustainability goals to say that, I am running commercial, buildings such as the mall more efficiently. I'm maintaining a better quality of air inside. I'm actually ensuring that there's better usage of water and other resources. So I think all across the board, people are trying to check out and also reporting on this. there was no sustainability reporting platforms that is actually collating this information. So it was all manual. Even that's another initiative to ensure that this is embedded into everything that we build. So whatever, let's say, platforms we build, or commercial physical things that we build, is the sustainability objectives actually measurable? Has it been delivered? And how do we reflect on that and say that this is what has been delivered? So there's a great focus there. And at the core of it, the observability and kind of the information that comes in is from this the IoT kind of devices that is there. And people call it different things: smart cities, smart buildings, and so on. But at the underlying thing is that basically you're getting a lot of information which is being used for all kinds of things. And I think all for us, I think everything that is being built and designed new comes in built with it, right?
Coming to now the larger picture, which is on Saudi Arabia, right? I think it's a very promising country, and we see, a surge in most of the industries there, in the growth of the country, growth of retail. How do you see retail in KSA? And the second part is the consumer behavior different than other countries, and how is it different?
I think because I've been through multiple countries and multiple regions, right? One has to be very clear that you have to understand the local customer very well. And KSA, like any other country, has got its own nuances, right? So what does the customer do? What are the how does the customer behave there? Because of the culture that is there, because the way that the family sizes are there, or the expat population that is. So it's a mix of all these aspects that is there. From a retail perspective, you'll see, like all other regions, there's a healthy mix of online and physical retail. Physical retail is still predominantly the larger kind of channel there, but it's effectively being augmented, or also being there's obviously a lot of online offerings, especially in the fashion space, and the immediate delivery kind of and that's been picking up. Unlike because obviously this has been happening world over, and it's happening in KSA as well. So we see a lot of that coming in. From our perspective, it's basically how does physical spaces enable these digital journeys for the customer, at the same time delivering a great physical retail experience as well. So in my view, I think both coexist as much as possible, though the customer choices will keep on changing, and you'll see that the customer, the way that larger e-commerce players are coming, and the way that they are kind of coming into the market and actually creating new offerings which take off very fast as well. There's a change of customer behavior, right? So even customers are getting used to the change. So how will this change? Obviously, we see customers still coming into the malls. Yeah. So physical retail is very much there, not only for retail, for F&B outlets, and for lifestyle and all that. People do come in, but the online significance has increased much more in the way that people react, people read, people get influenced, and so on. Right. So I think. If you look at it, I think conversion for sale is influenced by too many factors down. And depending on the particular segment of retail that you are in, there is kind of impact which you need to judge. And if it's fashion, then you have to, obviously there's all these fashion e-commerce players that are there, and the physical ones. How do you kind of intermesh? How do you offer? How do you co-offer? And so I think for every for grocery it is different actually. So every, I think particular vertical that is there in retail has a different solution for it. Yeah.
And I think in case specifically retail or physical retail is part of regular lifestyle, be it, as you were saying, that the people tend to spend and go to malls because of the weather and everything. And then the second is, as you said, it can be a where people spend time with their family, where they meet, and then the retail part come, I think, with it.
Absolutely. I think in the Middle East, where you have let's say a slightly harsher climate, weather is there, these are the destinations where you will spend time. The challenge is for the malls and other commercial real estate to actually ensure that you have a great experience for the customer. If you get the customer in, then obviously physical retail, your conversion is bound to happen, right? So
You mentioned something about last mile and same day delivery. Is it becoming quite common, and most of the companies have to cater to it, or how do you see it?
I think it's becoming an absolute must actually, if you ask me. I'll give a simple example. See, I think this is back in 2014, and I was in Shanghai, and we were, I was working for a large multinational retailer there with a joint venture with a Chinese company as well. And all our point of sale, our tills had to be integrated to the Baidu, quick delivery. It was actually at that point of time it was quite difficult for me because APIs hadn't evolved as much, and we were trying to see how do we efficiently deliver from a large hypermarket to a set of people who want immediate delivery. And it's quite difficult for even from a retailer's perspective, because you need inventories to be there and all that. So if you fast forward from 2014 to let's say 2025 now, the aspiration of people for immediate immediate delivery has not gone away. It's just increased. I would say that is why you'll see fulfillment in 15 minutes to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and so on, or same day deliveries. Right? I think it's quite important because people are a bit finicky and they expect rapid fulfillment, I suppose.
Yeah. And Binoo, my another question is, retail is very competitive, right? Normally, and physical stores and retail. How do Cenomi plans to remain competitive, and how you kind of cultivate the culture of innovation so that you stay ahead of the game?
See, I think it's very important that I said in the beginning, the offer that is there to the customer is very important. What is there on offer for the customer in terms of when he comes to, let's say, the mall, right? What kind of stores are there? Does that require him to physically see things? Does it increase his experiential, journey? Because people also want to feel, touch, and stay in places, right? We live in houses. We want to go out. As we go out, we want to go to the malls and actually enjoy a cup of tea. You want to have food with the family, see a movie. You want to shop for certain things because it's just part of that routine that is there, right? Now, that particular offer, how do you enhance it, right? And that's why I mentioned that the consumer behavior that is it. Try to observe and see that what are the segments that are actually behaving in what manner, and actually continue to attract them and satisfy them in the mall. Because if your satisfaction levels, let's say, Abrar, you're going with family to a certain mall and there's heavy parking and issues, and then you're not able to spend quality time in the mall, you will not go to the mall again, right? But you'll still go to another mall. Because obviously this is a part of your journey. A part of your let's say routines. And then you'll go to a mall where the offering is great, where you have peace, where your kids can spend time. Everything is sorted for you. We were doing a customer research with with some of the young mothers and all that, and just to find out what should we offer, right? And the first thing they said is that I need to solve for the kids. Because I need to bring them to a place where I can say that they are happy and they're having their entertainment in terms of and so that was a very fundamental journey that they want to solve for them while they do the shopping as well, right? So I think we need to understand what's the offer there for different sets of customers, especially from the previous question that I said, what is the demographics or the catchment area that is there, right? If you can cater to that, then obviously the key personas or the key customers are going to come. If they do come, then you have to ensure that they retain. It's the same as the old traditional approach that we had. That how do you retain customers there? Here, how do we retain the customer? How do we increase the dwell time? How do we increase the conversions? And all that we can do is basically ensure that the offer is great. And that's what we try to do.
And Binoo, my last question. It's a pleasure to talk to you. My last question is, how do you see the future of retail? Will it be physical or e-commerce, and how do you see it evolving? So how do you see 5 and 10 years, how the future of retail will look in KSA or across the Middle East?
I think, in my view, if you look at customer behavior in general, right, and especially the populations that are going to make purchase decisions, say our kids, and how do they behave? How do I behave when I do a purchase decision versus how does my kids do that? It's quite totally different, right? Yeah. So there is a increasing trend towards kind of online fulfillment and ordering it online and getting it fulfilled very fast, but the experiential thing is also gaining. It's not that you will always retain that online for certain things you really want to go and buy those things. So I think it's going to be an interesting mix as to say, how does retail look in another 10 years? Because these locations, how do they change to make it, almost like a, often misused word, digital twin. But the thing is that, do they intermesh the digital world and the physical world in such a way that the experience is so seamless that you actually don't feel the difference, but you would like to do it in a physical place as well, right? So in terms of what you want to buy or what you want to experience at that point of time, right? So there will be a greater convergence of technologies, because I would say that, like we're trying to do hyper personalization today, in terms of what Abrar wants. For example, let's say when you go there, I mean, the personalization that a particular, let's say, people in the shop try to do for you would be much different later. I mean, it will be personalized to what you actually are doing, and depending on how much data you share, I mean, it might be quite custom to what you aspire for, what you want. So I think that will change completely, because a great amount of data will be available to understand what Abrar really is, and how does he behave, and how does he aspire for and what is the things that he will desire. So catering of that will be quite natural, right? Because we will be able to, I mean, let's say at a point of time, we will be able to predict what you are wanting to buy and actually place that in front of you. So I see that growing a lot, because with the amount of data that is being churned, predicting what you will buy and ensuring that the right offer is there for you, that you just convert. This will be more seamless. In my view, that will change. I mean, how the offer will look like, it's very difficult to say. But one thing for sure is that there will be a lot of data to tell what you are actually, what will actually satisfy you in terms of a conversion trigger, right?
I think it's a combination of data and AI, which you can predict before a customer walks. That look, this might be the option that you are looking for.
And sometimes, see, when you walk into mall, sometimes you desire certain things, right? Or when you walk to, because you are looking for a particular, let's say, particular shoe or a particular experience, right? And you come out of the store because you don't get it, right? I think going forward in the future, there will be telemetry to say that you should not even go there because it's not going to be there. This is the route that you should follow for fulfilling that particular shopping experience. And I think it'll be curated in such a fashion that you will be it'll be more predictive and more hyper personalized, or I don't know what they call it then, but yeah.
Perfect. Binoo, thank you very much for coming, and it's really a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.